Picture this, a wall of ice taller than skyscrapers, grinding across continents. Lions the size of bears stalking frozen plains. And somewhere beneath that crushing white silence, human footprints. Thousands of them. What you're about to hear isn't the Ice Age from your textbook. It's something darker, stranger, and far more alive than anyone ever told you. Before we dive in, do me one small favor. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like. It genuinely helps this channel survive the algorithm winter. Now, let's begin the descent. Number 13. Let's start with something that sounds absolutely insane, but happens to be scientifically true. We are still living in an ice age. Right now, today, as you watch this video. The technical name for our current era is the Quaternary glaciation, and it began roughly 2.6 million years ago. It hasn't stopped. By every geological definition, an ice age requires permanent ice sheets somewhere on Earth, and we still have two massive ones, Antarctica and Greenland, holding nearly 70% of the planet's fresh water hostage in frozen form. What we casually call the Ice Age was actually just the last cold pulse, the last glacial maximum, which peaked about 20,000 years ago. We're currently in what scientists call an interglacial period, a warm intermission between acts. The ice didn't leave, it just retreated to wait. And here's the unsettling part. Without human interference, the natural cycle suggests we should already be cooling again. Glacial periods typically last around 100,000 years. Interglacials? Just 10 to 15,000. Do the math. The ice remembers where it used to be. And geologically speaking, it's already overdue for a return visit. Number 12. Imagine standing in modern-day Chicago and looking up at a cliff of ice rising 13,000 feet above your head. That's taller than most mountains in the continental United States. That was the Laurentide ice sheet, and it covered nearly all of Canada, Greenland, and a huge chunk of the northern United States. The weight of this monster was so unimaginable that it physically pushed the Earth's crust downward, hundreds of meters down. When the ice finally melted, the land began rebounding, and parts of Canada and Scandinavia are still rising today, millimeter by millimeter, like a memory foam mattress slowly recovering its shape after a giant got off it. The Laurentide carved out the Great Lakes like a child dragging fingers through wet sand. It scraped soil down to bedrock across millions of square miles. Entire mountain ranges were ground smoother, and when it began to retreat, it didn't melt gently. Massive lakes of trapped meltwater burst loose in catastrophic floods, reshaping continents in days. Some scientists believe one of these floods triggered a sudden global cooling event that nearly froze the world all over again, just when humans thought the worst was finally behind them. Number 11. Everyone assumes the saber-tooth was king, the poster child of the Ice Age. Those iconic 11-inch fangs gleaming in every museum exhibit. But the truth is, Smilodon had a boss, and that boss was terrifying. Meet the short-faced bear, Arctodus simus. When standing on its hind legs, this nightmare reached around 12 feet tall and weighed up to a metric ton. That's twice the mass of a modern grizzly. Its legs were unusually long and built for speed. Recent studies suggest it could maintain a steady pursuit at speeds approaching 40 miles per hour, far faster than any human could ever hope to outrun. But here's what makes it genuinely chilling. The short-faced bear wasn't just a hunter, it was a kleptoparasite, meaning it specialized in stealing kills from other predators. Picture a saber-tooth cat finally bringing down a bison after a brutal struggle, exhausted, bleeding, ready to feed. Then this gigantic, long-legged horror appears on the horizon, and the cat simply walks away. Because nothing on the continent could challenge it. When early humans crossed into North America, they walked straight into this animal's territory. Some researchers believe encounters with the short-faced bear may have shaped human migration routes for thousands of years. People literally rerouted their lives around where this creature lived. Number 10. This one rewrites everything you think you know about being human. For most of the last ice age, our species, Homo sapiens, was not alone on this planet. We shared it with Neanderthals, Denisovans, and possibly even smaller, stranger relatives whose bones we're still finding today. The Neanderthals were not the dim-witted brutes of old cartoons. They had larger brains than we did. They buried their dead with flowers and shells. They cared for their wounded and elderly. They created art. They survived ice, predators, and disease in conditions that would kill most modern humans within days. And then, about 40,000 years ago, they vanished. Not all at once, slowly, painfully. Their populations shrank, fragmented, and faded into the cold. Some interbred with our ancestors, which is why most non-African humans alive today carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their bodies, right now, as you breathe. Think about that for a second. Somewhere in your genome, a flicker of someone who watched mammoths walk across Europe, who hunted with stone tools, who died in a frozen world. They're not entirely gone. They're you. And the truly haunting question scientists still cannot answer is whether we outcompeted them, absorbed them, or something far darker happened in those final dark winters. Number 9. Most people picture mammoths going extinct around the time the great ice sheets retreated, roughly 10,000 years ago. Ancient, distant, safely locked away in prehistory. That's what the textbooks say. The textbooks are wrong by an unsettling margin. A small population of woolly mammoths survived on Wrangel Island, an isolated speck of land in the Arctic Ocean north of Siberia, until approximately 4,000 years ago. Let that sink in. While the Great Pyramids of Giza were already standing tall, while the Sumerians were inventing written language, while Stonehenge was being completed, mammoths still walked the earth. These were not mythical beasts. They were real, breathing, hairy giants tromping through frozen valleys at the same moment human civilization was reaching toward the stars. The pharaohs of Egypt could have, in theory, met one. They didn't, but they could have. The Wrangel mammoth suffered something genuinely tragic. Cut off from the mainland, their gene pool shrank. Their bodies began to fail at the genetic level, accumulating harmful mutations because there were too few mates left. Scientists call it genomic meltdown. They didn't die from cold or hunters. They died slowly, generation by generation, as their own DNA gave up. The last mammoth died alone, in silence, on an island, and the world never noticed. Number 8. Imagine a winter that did not end. Not for a season, not for a decade, for an entire millennium. This actually happened, and we have a name for it: the Younger Dryas. About 12,900 years ago, just as the world was warming up and the ice was retreating, something catastrophic happened. Almost overnight, in geological terms, temperatures plunged back into deep glacial cold. Forests that had been creeping northward froze and died. Animals adapted to milder conditions were wiped out. Human cultures that had begun settling, farming, and building disappeared from the archaeological record. What caused this 1,000-year freeze? Scientists are still arguing. The leading theories include a massive meltwater pulse from collapsing ice sheets that disrupted Atlantic Ocean currents, a comet impact over North America, and unstable feedback loops in the global climate, possibly all of them at once. What's truly disturbing is how fast it happened. Ice core data suggests temperatures in some regions dropped by more than 10 degrees Celsius in less than a decade. That's not a slow descent. That's a climate cliff. One generation lived in a warming world. Their grandchildren lived in hell. And somewhere out there, beneath the layers of ice and silt, lie the bones and tools of people who simply did not understand what was happening to their world. Number 7. When you hear the word sloth, you think of those slow, smiling treetop creatures that move at the speed of frozen syrup. Now erase that completely. During the Ice Age, sloths were monsters. The Megatherium, also known as the giant ground sloth, stood up to 20 feet tall on its hind legs and weighed as much as 4 tons. That makes it bigger than a modern African elephant. Its claws were as long as kitchen knives, and its tongue, based on the structure of its skull, was probably long enough to strip leaves from branches 12 feet off the ground. These giants weren't gentle herbivores either, despite their plant-based diet. Some researchers believe they may have occasionally scavenged or even confronted predators directly. A swipe from those claws could disembowel almost any creature alive at the time. Even saber-tooth cats are believed to have hesitated before attacking a healthy adult. Here's the really uncomfortable part. Giant ground sloths and humans coexisted in the Americas for thousands of years. We have archaeological sites where it's clear ancient people hunted them, butchered them, and possibly drove them toward extinction. Cave paintings, fossilized footprints walking inside the prints of giant sloths, even chemically preserved hair samples have been recovered. These animals didn't die out millions of years ago. Our direct ancestors looked them in the eye and then watched them disappear. Number 6. So much water was locked inside the planet's ice sheets that global sea levels plummeted by approximately 400 feet. 400! That's the height of a 40-story skyscraper. Entire continents grew larger. Coastlines we have never seen on any map were exposed for tens of thousands of years. A vast, cold grassland called Beringia connected Siberia and Alaska, a real continent the size of Australia, now sleeping beneath the Bering Sea. Britain was not an island. It was a peninsula attached to mainland Europe by a region called Doggerland, complete with rivers, hills, forests, and human settlements. The Persian Gulf was a green river valley. The Mediterranean had islands and harbors that no one alive today has ever seen. When the ice melted, all of that drowned. Slowly, then suddenly. There are submerged Stone Age villages off the coasts of England, Croatia, and Japan. Fishermen still occasionally pull up mammoth tusks and prehistoric tools from the seabed. Entire civilizations, or at least the foundations of them, lie hidden in dark water, untouched, undisturbed, waiting. This is why some scientists believe the global flood myth shared by nearly every ancient culture, from Mesopotamia to the Americas to Australia, may be cultural memory. Not metaphor, memory, of a time when the sea rose and never came back down. Number 5. Forget everything modern wildlife documentaries have taught you about wolves. The dire wolf was not just a bigger gray wolf, it was a different beast entirely, and recent DNA evidence has revealed something almost unbelievable. Dire wolves weren't really wolves at all. They were the last surviving member of an ancient lineage that diverged from modern canines nearly 6 million years ago. A full-grown dire wolf weighed up to 150 pounds, with bone-crushing jaws strong enough to splinter the femur of a horse. They hunted in packs, and based on fossil evidence from the La Brea tar pits in California, those packs were huge, sometimes dozens strong. They pursued prey across open plains in coordinated, intelligent attacks. Here's what's chilling. They lived alongside early humans on the American continent. We hunted the same animals, we competed for the same kills, and while modern wolves generally avoid people, there's no clear evidence dire wolves shared that instinct. Some researchers suggest they may have actively hunted lone humans when food was scarce, especially during the worst winters of the last glacial period. When you stand outside on a quiet night and a distant wolf howl drifts across the wind, just remember, that sound used to be deeper, closer, hungrier, and you would not have been at the top of the food chain. Number 4. Around 74,000 years ago, deep into the last ice age, the Earth nearly ended us. Not the cold, not the predators, a volcano. The Toba supereruption on the island of Sumatra was one of the largest volcanic events of the past 2 million years, and it changed the planet in ways that still echo through your DNA. The eruption ejected so much ash and sulfur into the atmosphere that global temperatures dropped by an additional 3 to 5 degrees for years afterward, on top of an already frigid world. Forests died, food chains collapsed, skies turned gray for an entire decade. Genetic evidence suggests that the human population at this time may have crashed to as few as a few thousand breeding individuals worldwide. A few thousand. That's the entire genetic seed from which billions of humans alive today descend. We came that close to extinction. A few unlucky generations, a few more bad winters, and Homo sapiens would be a footnote, like dozens of other human species that came before us and didn't make it. When you look in the mirror, you are looking at the descendant of survivors who endured ash-filled skies, frozen valleys, and famine that emptied entire continents. We almost weren't here, Most of us never realize how thin that thread truly was. Number 3. This isn't a science fiction premise. This is happening right now, in our actual world, in real laboratories. As the permafrost across Siberia, Alaska, and Canada continues to thaw at unprecedented rates, scientists are recovering organisms that have been frozen since the Ice Age. And not all of them are dead. In 2014, researchers revived a 30,000-year-old virus called Pithovirus sibericum from frozen Siberian soil. It was still infectious. Granted, it only attacks single-celled amoebas, but the point stands. A virus older than written history was woken up, and it worked. Since then, multiple ancient viruses have been thawed and reanimated. Bacteria, too. Some of these microbes existed when mammoths still walked the earth, when entire human species we no longer remember were still alive, when the world was a fundamentally different place. We have absolutely no idea what happens if a pathogen capable of infecting modern animals or humans wakes up after 40,000 years of sleep. There are entire frozen mammoth and woolly rhinoceros carcasses being uncovered with tissue, blood, and parasites still preserved inside them. Scientists are calling this a biological time bomb hidden in the world's coldest places, and the thaw is accelerating every single year. Number 2. For nearly a century, the official story said humans first entered North America around 13,000 years ago, crossing the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia. Generations of archaeologists built entire careers defending this timeline. Then in 2021, in White Sands National Park in New Mexico, everything fell apart. Researchers discovered fossilized human footprints embedded in ancient lakebed sediment. Not just one, hundreds. Adults, children, walking, running, hunting. Carbon dating placed these prints between 21,000 and 23,000 years old. That's nearly twice as old as previously believed. This means humans were already living, raising children, and surviving in the heart of North America during the absolute worst phase of the last ice age. They walked among giant sloths and direwolves and short-faced bears. They watched mammoths drink from lakes that no longer exist. They left behind the imprints of their bodies in mud that turned to stone. The discovery shattered textbooks. Entire migration theories were torn up overnight. And it raises an even darker question. If humans were already here 23,000 years ago, who else might we find evidence of? How much earlier did the first arrivals come? What other lost peoples wandered these frozen plains long before history began? The footprints don't lie. The story we were told was incomplete. Maybe it always was. Number 1. And here we are. The truth no climate scientist enjoys discussing in public, but every single one of them knows. Earth's climate operates in cycles. Long, brutal, irreversible cycles driven by the planet's tilt, its orbit, and the slow wobble of its axis through space. These are called Milankovitch cycles, and they have controlled the rhythm of ice ages for millions of years. Based on these natural cycles, Earth should currently be cooling. We are technically overdue for a return to glacial conditions. Some models suggest that without modern human influence on the atmosphere, the next major glaciation could already be underway. Ice creeping south, forests retreating, sea levels falling. The familiar world dying inch by inch. What's keeping the ice at bay right now is, ironically, us. Greenhouse gases produced by industry have temporarily delayed the natural cooling trend. Some scientists believe this delay may extend our current warm period by tens of thousands of years. Others warn that the climate system is far more unstable than that, and a sudden flip, like the Younger Dryas, could plunge regions into deep cold within a single decade. Either way, the ice is patient. It has buried mountains, drowned cities, and erased entire human species. It has done it before. It is waiting. And one day, whether in 1,000 years or 10,000 or longer, the Great White Wall will return. The world we know is not the normal one. The Ice Age is. The only question is whether anyone will be left to remember us when it comes back.